Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gore Column in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. And with us today, happy to have him back, Peter Hawley. He's president and CEO of Fabled Silver Gold, trades on the TSX Venture under FCO, and for our friends in the US, under FBSGF. For those new to the story, and there's going to be a lot of you given the latest headline that's come out, this is what you need to know about the company. They control 100% of the Santa Maria gold and silver property in Mexico. Now, more than just lip service, it's a high-grade underground silver gold mine situated in the center of the Mexican Epithermal silver gold belt, which has produced more silver than any other equivalent area in the world. The project itself is in the mining-friendly jurisdiction of Parral, which will produce over 250 million ounces of silver. Multiple major operators in the vicinity, including Grupo Mexico, that border Santa Maria. They've already got a silver equivalent 43101 of 3.2 million ounces indicated, 1.1 million inferred, but they're looking to really move that number up. They're having great exploration success. There are two drill programs going on. One is above ground, 9,200 meter program. Another one is underground. That's a 1,200 meter program. The press release we're talking about, here's the headline. Fable discovers new high-grade gold system with values intercepted up to 10.8 grams per ton of gold within 30.7 meter structure, grading 161 silver equivalent grams. Peter, that's a mouthful. Welcome back. Let's talk about this.
I know. I'm sorry, George. I always make it difficult. But this is good difficult.
Well, the important thing now is to put this into perspective. And first, I want to start off with your quote, because that kind of says everything. I'm reading, "We have found a new, never discovered high-grade gold mineral domain system with silver credits over consistent widths in an area never explored and which remains open to the west and at depth, plunging 45 degrees to the west and open in all directions for expansion." So before we get onto a map that we got to walk everybody through that, talk to us. What does that mean for the layman? How significant is this? Because the quote seems very significant.
Well, it is, because if you step out a little bit and look at macro instead of micro. In macro, and as you alluded to, is the Parral camp has produced a lot of silver, and it's a silver domain camp. It's not a gold camp; it's silver. And occasionally you will get the high hits of silver or of gold with silver, but usually, they're very narrow and they're bonanza grade. So I think in previous operators on our property, there's only 5 holes that have actually given a gold grade and, of significance. And every one of those, 4 of the 5, that there's a direct correlation: bonanza grade silver, high grade gold, narrow width. And one example was 30 grams of gold and 6.8 kilos of silver, but it's only over 0.69 at the meter. In this case, where we are, what we've discovered to the west, it's completely gold domain, like gold rules, right? And I think you remember that old saying: whoever has the gold rules. But anyways, it's silver. Silver is there, but it's in lesser quantities, with gold being the predominant thing, and that's very, very, very unusual for this camp. I mean,
I was going to say that's significant, right? Because this area is known for silver. So not only is it an area never explored, but it's high grade gold.
Yeah.
Were you guys surprised by this, or did you have an idea you might be onto something?
Well, if you've read the previous news releases before this one, we were talking about vectoring in on where things are plunging and where they're going and everything else, and go west and everything else. Now, the whole target, or our targeting, was high grade silver plunges in large structures. But to see this pop in, completely, the guys down there who have years and years experience in the Parral camp have not seen this. So
if it almost leaves you speechless, that's something. So let's do this. I'm going to bring up some slides,
Sure.
because I think this is getting so big and so diverse. It warrants now walking through the investors and viewers through some slides here so they can visualize this. So give me 1 second here to bring this up. All right, walk us through what we're looking at so people can really understand the gravity of all this.
Okay, George. So what we're looking at is from a drone, a picture of the Santa Maria vein, which is in the left-hand corner, upper left-hand corner, and labeled. Right. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the Santa Maria dose vein, as you can see by the red line. And everyone believed, or previous to us getting there, that they're two separate veins and they had nothing to do with each other. But in reality, what's happening is it's a structure. One is the footwall and one is the hanging wall.
And what does that mean to the layman, by the way? Footwall, hanging wall.
Well, if you imagine if you're underground and you're looking at, and say you're underground, and you're looking at something hanging above you, okay, that's the hanging wall.
Right.
And where your feet are, that's the footwall.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. And so they define the limit of the structure. And as you can see through the blue line here, that's a structure. In our case, we reported this structure being over 30 meters in width. And 30 meters in width, people may kind of sneeze at that, George, but hey, you know what? If you're standing on the ground and you looked up at a ninth floor of a building, that'd be approximately 30 meters. So this is brand new gold grade over 30. I mean, you got to pay attention to it. Now, if you're looking at this picture, if you look well, you can't see over that hill over here, but if you're to look over that hill, approximately.
You can use your mouse, by the way, Peter, if you want to kind of correct us there.
You got to go in here, I think. Yeah. If you looked over the hill where it says looking southwest, that would be actually Grupo Mexico Santa Barbara mill facility at 4,800 tons a day. So here's this thing, coming across our property and heading that way, and of course heading to the east as we defined it. So it's open in all directions in that depth, and as we go further down this the slides, we'll show you why we're so excited.
And by the way, for everyone at home, partners for a second, Peter, is the mouse working for you to take control there?
No, I think you have to remove your little cursor off the screen, George.
All right, I'll move it down one for here, and then
there we go.
Let's see if you can do that. Let's see if you can take over. Tell us what we're looking at here.
Here we have a section through the interval, and as you can see, historical drill holes. For an example, SM 1807. That hit two small zones, 13.52 meters, grading 50 grams silver equivalent with a small gold equivalent. And then another separate zone, a little bit higher of 1.15. We drilled underneath of this, believing that they would converge or the zone would get greater at depth. And as I said, we've hit over 30 meters of, in this case, 161 grams plus of silver equivalent.
How relative to this very historic area, how good is that number? Because I mean, you've got hundreds of years of data here. Is for everyone at home, put into perspective, is that a great number?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, George. Well, let's put it this way: the Santa Barbara, our neighbors to the west or northwest, they started in 1562. They continued. Yeah, they continue to operate. They produced over 500 million ounces of silver. They continue to operate. Their mill facility is 4,800 tons per day, George, and their average head grade of silver is 87 grams.
560 years ago, to be clear, in case people thought you made a mistake and said 1962, that's 1562.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so their head grade that they're running is 87 grams of silver. So I would say yes, but also, what's really important about these structures and the width is not only can you build ounces in a hurry, but on a mining, scenario, and as you can see, it's sitting fairly vertically. So, this would be amenable to either block caving or long hole mining, which is very cost effective, very, very cheap to do, and you take it all. So no, this is groundbreaking.
All right, what should we look at next to keep walking us through this?
Let's flip to another slide, please. Okay, so here's 15.6 meters of this mineralized zone, and as you can see it, it's not the typical kind of gray limestone with the veins in it and everything else. This is, pink silicified. I personally think it's hydrothermal, and why I say that, I've seen enough of it in the Val-d'Or camp in my days.
And what's the importance of hydrothermal, Peter?
Well, you have epithermal and hydrothermal. So hydrothermal is very high temperature, and it's usually associated with intrusives and or dikes or something very, very hot that's coming from a big source. Whereas epithermal is coming from down below, and it's coming up, and it's in the temperature domain that as it goes up, the various minerals, usually in the top end of an epithermal would be the bonanza golds, and then underneath the bonanza golds, you get bonanza silvers, and then it would grade down into silver lead, and then silver lead zinc, and silver lead zinc copper. But this is a whole different beast, and we've only shown you a small part of it here, about half of the zone, if you can imagine that. But super impressive and very distinct in its look from anything else we've seen, George.
And again, came as a surprise. Like, were you guys, obviously you knew you're onto something, but did this even surprise you?
Yeah, it did. It totally did. And the great thing about it, and we'll see it in later slides or anything else, and as you mentioned, like, this is virgin territory. I mean, no one has drilled a friggin' hole here. There hasn't been a gopher hole on surface. There's nothing. And this is brand new. I mean, absolutely brand new. If we flip to the next slide.
And what led you, by the way, before I flip to the next slide, what led you to go to this never explored area? What was the thesis?
Well, the thesis was that we were drilling holes to the east, and some of them didn't make sense. And I'll give you an example. We drilled one hole, which we reported hole number 18. And hole number 18 was 75 meters to the east of this, okay? And we drilled a hole, and we got 19.65 meters of approximately 74 grams per ton silver equivalent with a small gold credit. We drilled hole number 19, 75 meters below that hole, George. And it came back with a width, but almost no silver in it at all. Very, very little. So what happened to that 75 meters? How do you take something that's almost 20 meters wide and make it disappear in 75 meters? The only way you can do that, one, if there's a fault and it just cuts it off and displaces it, or if you're into a plunge, a mineralized plunge where around hole number 18 within a radius or whatever, this thing is going to act like a cigar or a long tube and have a preferential way to go down. So based on that, we said, okay, let's because of that, let's test this out. Let's step 75 meters to the west, which we did. We drilled hole 20 based on the results of hole 18, not 19, using a 45 degrees because we were looking at core angles and everything else. And as my grandson says, boom, baby. And here it is.
I'm going to timestamp that, boom, baby.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to the next slide because you wanted to go.
Yeah, this is a close-up. So you can just give you an example, but the top 1.5 meters of 4.77 grams or the silver equivalent. And then the next slice or the next one, 1.5 meters, 7.47, and then followed by 1.5 meters of 10.85. And what I'd like people to understand is we have the widths and everything else, but if I go through this gold zone and I start quoting, here is the gold grade and here is the width, you'll see that this is not a one-off. It's just consistent over and over and over again. So the gold grade starts, 1.29 gold grams per ton gold over 2.4 meters, George, and then that's followed by, 9.77 grams of gold over 1.5 meters, followed by 7.47 over 1.5, and then 10.85 over 1.5, and then 4.93 over 1.5, and 7.81 over 2.4, and continues onward. So it's not this narrow little intercept that, oh, just by luck you got a squirt or something like this. This is very sizable and very continuous gold grade.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Okay,
so this is the big picture now, right?
This is the big picture. And I still want to,
but it looks exciting.
And well, it does, and people have to, if they remember me, I've been harping about this from day one. Is we're in exploration. We're not doing definition drilling. We're not, we're not at the point where we're putting a reserve together or anything else. We're doing exploration. And, over the 5 years that the previous owners had this, during 2014 to 2018, 2019, or whatever, before we came along, they had only drilled a total of 9,200 meters, George. And basically that was confined, and you can see it up there. That was
where should we look at specifically?
If you look in the center, if the center of the picture where the underground workings where they came in and took their bulk sample, but it was confined around that area because that's what they were going to put in production at a small rate. So they didn't drill to the east on strike and looking at it. They didn't drill to the west. No one has, and so we originally started, and you can see the hole there, SM20-01. That's where it all began. And we went down systematically, 1, 2, 3, great success, stepped over, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8. And then we hit the big north-south fault and followed that up and turned around that we basically make a counterclockwise circle around the property, came back to the beginning and said, listen, we have IP anomalies to the west. No one's ever been there before. There's no reason why it shouldn't be there. We drilled holes 14, 15, and 16, checking, and they all gave indices that, there's a plunge on this thing.
And there are no numbers there attached to them, so we can see, but the grades and so on. But 14, 15, 16, all successful. All these were pretty successful.
Yes, yeah, typical of the deposit. Yes.
Right.
And then we stepped out further and we drilled 18 and 19, and 18 hit, and I discussed that earlier with a little over a 30-meter intersection, or excuse me, 20-meter intersection. And then we drilled underneath hole 19 here, 75 meters below, didn't hit anything. So how do you have that hit something and this not hit something? There has to be a defined barrier or a preferential trend coming down here. And if you look at these areas, that's the way it's going. So we've stepped out after drilling holes 20, 21, we're still waiting for assays. We stepped out another 75 meters to the west, and we've drilled holes 22, 23, 24. And I can tell the public, as of last night, we finished drilling holes 25 and 26, which are another 75 meters out here. And right now we're in holes 27, which is in this area.
I don't see your mouse, but I'm assuming you're pointing to the bottom left. You're going.
I am. I'm sorry. I thought my mouse was working. But yes, we continue to the west, and everything that we've seen, we're very happy about. So this is a new interpretation. What we're seeing is, if you move to the next slide.
And remind me, I'd like to come back to that, or this slide. I'd like to come back to one of these big picture slides, talk about what the focus can be, but go ahead. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so what you're looking at here is structure on structure. You've heard me talk about this before, but what we're realizing, what it's done to some of the deposit. So if you go to the east or to your right-hand side, there's the big north-south fault going right up through the property and everything else.
I'll give you the mouse here. Will let me know if that. There you go.
There we go. So there's the big north-south fault right here,
Okay.
going right through the property. And we have drilled across it, and it is silver domain bearing and everything else. And there's some other things to the north of this area that we found, which have to be followed up. What we realized in this area is you had your supergene enrichment area, and you had your oxides, all typical of an epithermal deposit. And then deeper down after the oxides, you came into your sulfides. Except there's again, another north-south fault in this location. And this has pushed this section upwards in that direction.
Right.
So as you can see, the oxides thin out, the mixed ore or supergene gets greater, or the package gets thicker or wider, and then you have your sulfides.
Now, how important is that, Peter? How significant is that?
Well, it is, because what you want, at least what I want in an ideal world, is I want the whole sulfide package. I don't want the oxides, because the oxides are leached out from groundwaters and everything else, so they're going to be much lower grade, George. So having the sulfide package, love it for various reasons. And the other thing you have to remember too is, if you're in the mining game or whatever, processing different sulfides is a pain in the butt, because you got to change everything, like, you can run oxides, yes, but you're going to use certain reagents and certain things for that. Then you're going to have to run, if you're running supergene, you're going to have to use a whole different set. Sulfides is a whole different set again. So if you have one type of mineral or one type of domain, in this case, sulfides. But if you look at this down block, and now that we look back at the IP and at the mag, we can actually see this. This is an upthrust, and you see the arrows. This side has gone up. This side has gone down. And so all of this is gone now. It probably was up here at one time, George, and it's eroded off, to tell you the truth, and left you with the sulfides on the top. So here we are. So when we started realizing this, holes 14, 15, and 16, that actually told us about going this way. And then, of course, hole 18 told us more, 18 and 19 told us more, and then we zeroed in and hit 20, and as I mentioned, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, they've been drilled. We've stepped out another 75 meters. 25 and 26 have been drilled, and right now we've stepped out another 75 meters, and we're drilling hole 27. And so all of this, think about this, here's the little shallow mine workings that the other guys are working on right here. And that's at approximately 4 million ounces of silver that we started off with, that the other people had outlined before we got involved. Now, since that point in time, we've added this, but now this is all new. I mean, this, and it's still shallow. It's only, I think the deepest drill hole on the property right now we're drilling is about 350 meters below surface, open in all directions. So, and then the other thing, and George, you've been around for a while too, is that, and this is very common in Mexico, and I've seen a few other places, but when they drove this ramp, and of course it's money constraint that does it, is they drive it right down the middle of the vein.
Which ramp is that? Sorry, is your mouse working?
Yeah, up here. So
okay.
There's a ramp high. Well, actually, if we can flip back one slide, I believe, if you can do that. Yeah, right there. There it is. So here's the entrance into the ramp right here.
Okay.
And here it goes underground, and then it comes back around, and then comes back this way. So when they drove this thing in to take their bulk sample, rather, they drove it right on the vein. And they drove it along the vein, and of course, as they're advancing, they're taking ore out for part of their bulk sample. Now, that's great in an exploration ramp or whatever else, but as a miner, and as you know, I'm kind of a hybrid. I'm a geologist and an engineer, but as a miner, you just sterilize that whole friggin' area.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that. So thank goodness you're telling me that.
Well, let's put it this way. If I have my ramp in the middle of an ore body, and now I want to mine above me or I want to mine below me,
Makes sense.
how can I do it? So typically what you do is if you're driving a ramp or something, you're going to drive it beside the ore body, and then you're going to put in little pockets where you're going to pop in and mine it along there, and then spiral around it with your ramp, George, go on the other side of it and then pop in and take some more and go like that.
Yeah, you don't go right through the middle of it.
No, you don't do that. That's a bad boy. That's bad mining 101. So so the interesting thing about this now is that look at this. This is all virgin. There's not a hole in it. There's, and when I say whole ramp, they haven't done anything to this. They haven't screwed it up or anything else. So this is just perfect setup. And with the widths, very exciting. And so now,
and you're just going to keep going out 75 meters at a time until it ends.
Well, until we hit the property line. And
how far is the property line from there?
We still have about a kilometer and a half approximately to go. So quite a ways to go. Although we're starting to garner a little bit of attention from our neighbors. We'll see where that one goes.
What kind of attention is that?
Well, this area is a small area. Everybody knows what everyone's doing. So that there's been a request to sign a CA by
confidentiality agreement for everyone at home
to look at some of the stuff we're drilling because they haven't seen this before or whatever. So we'll see if that happens or not.
So does this become the focus now, Peter? Obviously, but up until now, you had some really good numbers. George,
going back to it, I'm still in exploration. If I let this blindside me and just zero in on this and just, spend all my time over here, I could be wrong. Maybe it's somewhere else, but I'll tell you right now, this is, it's pretty hard to argue with at this point in time. And the neat thing about this, George, and we're very fortunate, and I thank our shareholders for this and everything else, is in December when we did the first financing for the company, and we raised a total of $4.6 million to drill this off. And we've been putting the money in the ground like crazy. Every Friday, I get the cash balance of the company from the CFO and everything else. As you know, I'm Scottish, and I watch the cash very carefully.
The Greeks have a saying: watch your cash closely, just to be able to keep half of it.
Yeah,
because it goes fast.
Well, get this: last Friday, we actually had $4.7 million.
How's that possible?
Warrants being exercised.
So how far is that 4.7 million take? Like complete blue sky for now. You don't have to worry about, you got a lot of runway, not blue sky. I mean, a lot of runway with that 4.7.
Well, sure. I mean, if, and we're doing some calculations right now of how many more meters we'd like to drill, but if I want to drill another 8,000 meters, I don't even have to blink. I mean, we have more than enough money to multi times over to do that. So we're in great shape, and it's it's not often you run into a situation like this. So it's kind of really cool to, at this stage of the game, you've looked at the property, you've kind of getting the hang of it, what's making it tick, understanding the structures, and then boom, here you are. You're into something brand new, very exciting. Unusual for the camp. It may remake the camp or give new thinking to it, because one of the questions through all of this in this whole freaking camp, to have so much silver, what's driving it? Why is there a bunch of silver there? And so is it an intrusive at depth that's controlling all this silver, or is it the great big graben to the northwest that's done this and tapped down into the mantle and it's coming up that way? What are we running into? What looks like hydrothermal? Is that part of a dike or part of a finger from a mineralized intrusive just sitting below the surface that's causing this mineralization? There's a lot of questions that will have to be answered down the road, and I can tell you, usually what we do, and I don't want to get into too much gobbledygook and everything else, but we can take sections of that rock and do thin sections, electronic probe and everything else, and start looking at the genesis of where did this mineralization come from, and what temperature was it formed at, and what came first, the chicken or the egg type of thing, and kind of backtrack this, and we will be doing that down the road for sure.
Peter, if everything went well and you kept moving 75 meters, 75, and you had reason to keep moving until you got to the property line, right?
Yep.
How long would that take you to? Because the great thing about being Mexico is you really don't have drilling season, right? It's not like when you're in
we don't.
And things are shut down for 5 months because of winter. How long would it take you to get over there?
You know what? That's funny you asked me that, because I'm probably going to have that answer this afternoon. But I'll guess it'll probably be Septemberish.
Wow. So you guys can move pretty quickly if there's a reason to keep moving west and keep moving west.
Yeah.
You guys can keep moving pretty quickly. So fair to say, but by Q4 you'll have a really good idea of what you got at Santa Maria.
We will internally for sure. And the thing is, if you look at this, George, if you can see my mouse on the western side, okay, you see the way we're drilling. We're always drilling in fences, hole 1, 2, 3, because. And the previous owners, when they'd come in, they'd drill a hole. If I can find, see, this is an example. No. Anyways, there's another one I'll show it. But the previous.
You want me to go back to another slide?
No, that's fine. But basically, what they do is they drill one hole and then move to a different section to drill one hole, one hole, one hole. And with one hole, it's like attaching a line together from 2 points. You can't attach anything to 2 points or to 1 point. So you always try to have at least 2 holes in a line. For an example, this one and this one, because then I can attach them together. Ideal scenario is 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, and for sure you know what that is. So as we march to the west, we're drilling 2 and 3 holes along this thing, and that'll fill it in. But not only fill it in, if you look at the spacing of 75 meters. Moving to the west, and each hole being spaced by about 75 meters. When at the end of the day it comes to calculate a resource calculation, there's not going to be a lot of inferred in here, George, because of the drill spacing, and that saves you time down the road, because you're going to be in measured and indicated, and measured and indicated. Those are basically the 2 categories that. Once you put the economics to it, that's going to go into proven and probable reserves, right?
Peter, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you guys with the progress at Santa Maria so far? Because I know you came out of retirement for this. You've had a couple of successful exits already, so you know what you're talking about. And you had when we first started doing interviews, you had good reason to be optimistic about what Santa Maria holds, but in terms of potential. Here we are, middle of July. How are you feeling about it now?
On a scale of 10, George, I'd put myself at about 8.5 right now.
Okay.
If what I'm saying is true with this plunge area, and we can just start, as they say, shooting fish from a barrel and going boom, 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 that would put me at a 10 probably. But one thing I'll give people an idea, and you probably remember this, George. You've been around long enough. Do you remember the ore resources in the Louvicore deposit?
Sure.
And that the great big VMS deposit in Val-d'Or that they discovered, and at that time the chief geologist was Don Bubar, and underneath him was George Menard. Both.
I know Don very well. We have a long, good history. He's a great geologist, great CEO.
Yeah, and I was there at that time too. And the discovery hole for Louvicore, which is over 70 million tons of a massive sulfide deposit, the discovery hole was hole number 179.
Wow. A lot of little crumbs and tidbits and hints until you finally got to 179.
Yeah. So here we are talking about hole 20. So, the beginning of exploration, but it'll it'll change dramatically. So yes, we have work to do. We understand very well what's starting to control this. Have we made a discovery? Yes, we have made a discovery. Have we done something very unusual for the camp? Yes, we have. Found a gold domain system.
Yeah, let's talk a little more about that now. Now that everyone's had a good visual, you know, and it's and can really picture all this.
Yeah.
How surprising is the gold, and if and how you know, like your neighbors want to talk to you under confidentiality agreement, right? How does that change? How does that change the picture of Santa Maria?
Well, if going back to some of the things I've already said, and I'll repeat them to people just so they understand again. So over in this area, what we're seeing is, and as we've seen, you know, some of the drill holes and underground sampling on the back or on the roof of the ramp as it went down and everything else, is there's multi kilo intercepts, okay, with a gold credit, and that's great, and that basically pegs you in the system that you're at that edge of where the high end of the epithermal system, where the gold has decreased because of temperature. It's all related to temperature. You know, gold will get the hottest and it'll go to the top, and then as the temperature cools down, the silver will be the next one down and everything else. So it's all temperature related. So up here, you know, we have our high-end epithermal system, and theoretically, but it's gone now, you would have had your bonanza gold up here. And then as you go down deeper and deeper, as the temperature cools down this way, you'll have more silver with lead, and then you'll have the zinc coming in, and then down deeper, you'll have the copper, and et cetera, et cetera. So now that you got these blocks, now think about this. So this thing used to, the big gold's up here. Now you've shoved this block up here, and you've gotten rid of this. Now you've taken this one from way down here, this block, and you shoved it up here, right? So are we, you know, now here's a question. I don't know the answer of it, George, but you can speculate on this one, and I think we all will at the end of the day. And that goes back to wanting to do this electronic probe and everything else. If we are right, and this is a big block that's shoved up here, and the gold we're starting to see here over big widths, is that really the top end of the epithermal system? And down below it, you may be seeing the bonanza grade kilos of silver? I don't know. There's a question for you. I don't know.
At some point, you guys will go there as well, but first you want to go west.
Yeah, I want to cover the whole property first before I zero in on one area pretty well. Yeah.
These latest holes, 20, 21, 22, 23,
Yep.
24, 25. How long until ballpark? How long until assays come back for those?
Right up to, I mentioned to everyone we just finished hole 26, or I don't know if I did or not, but last night we finished hole 26. Hole 26 would be over here someplace. So from holes 21 to 25, they're in for assay at the lab at ALS. And I would think, and I'm guesstimating here, but if I'm looking at the time, frequency, you know, turnaround and everything else, although it has slowed down. And if you're following Mexican silver news, there's a lot of, it's a very busy place, Mexico right now.
Yep.
So the turnaround has slowed down, but I would think by sometime next week, I would expect the results from holes 21 and 22.
So we may be back here revamping this map in the next 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, you know, I know it's getting confusing to everyone. And so
no, not at all. I'm glad we did this, Peter, because this really clarifies the picture. Before we're trying to describe this, just you and I speaking on screen, and that's why we both agreed. We said, hey, let's put a visual to this.
Well, it is, and as this thing becomes, if you want to call it more normal or more predictable, or you understand the trick or whatever, then the explanation of it will get easier and easier as we go forwards, George. But any way you look at it. So the cool thing is, and I was thinking about this before we were going to talk, and I was thinking, it's really funny because you start off, and as you know, the company originally was called Fabled Copper, and for various reasons I got involved and renamed it Fabled Silver Gold, and went down to Mexico, and here we are. So we started off with, maybe it should have been Fabled Silver at the beginning, and off we went. We're chasing silver and great success and everything else, and then all of a sudden, boom, here comes the gold. So the name Fabled Silver Gold is great, and then if you're looking for commodities, silver and gold, everyone's very bullish on it. But ironically, the third commodity that everyone's really keen on is copper. And here we are, we're giving our Fabled Silver Gold shareholders, for every 5 shares they have of Fabled Silver, they're going to get 1 free share of Fabled Copper. So they got the 3 best things in the world for one shot. So it turns out it's ironic.
And well, let's bring us up to speed on, and I'll take the screen share off now.
Yeah.
Bring us up to speed. How's the spin out going?
Really good. The 43-101 has been written on the property. It is in at the exchange being reviewed for comments, so that's great. I expect you'll see early next week, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, an announcement of the closing of the financing for Fabled Copper. Super well received, so that'll be done.
How much you guys looking to raise?
We originally put out, I think we said $6 million, and there was a 15% oversubscription on it, and I think we filled that also. Actually, we could have done more than that, but enough's enough. So very happy with that. Paperwork probably 2 to 3 weeks out from mailing out the information circular to the shareholders with the date of the extraordinary meeting for the company. Last Sunday, a week ago Sunday, the crew's en route to Toad River, where the launching point is for the exploration on the copper property. We had a supper in Fort Nelson with the Fort Nelson First Nations chief and band council members, and also the Cascade Dene representatives. Very well received, and support the whole project. And now the boys up there are flying around in helicopters and, as they say, banging on shiny rocks. So all systems go. We're not affected by forest fires, George. Very lucky up there. And they've had nothing but blue sky of flying the whole time.
And at some point, we'll have to do this same thing. A presentation, this beyond the presentation format for the copper side, for Fabled Copper.
You're just trying to get more work out of me, aren't you?
The shareholders want you working. It's my job to whip you and have you back on here. But yeah, because it would be great to show the shareholders what they're going to be getting. Yeah,
no, I think that's a great idea, George. And as soon as the guys, usually when I get data from them, or appreciable amounts of data, is when they have a rain day. And so every day they're in the field right now. So as soon as they get some bad weather, I suspect I'll be getting all kinds of pictures and all kinds of stuff sent to me. We'll share them, tell the story.
If it was just Fabled Silver Gold, that would be more than enough to make anybody happy. But on top of that, you got Fabled Silver Gold spinning out the copper. That just makes it a really great 2021.
Yeah, I didn't see this one coming, George. I came out of retirement for Fabled Silver down in Mexico, and then here we are. But anyways, such is life, and it's all good for the shareholders, and if the shareholders are happy, I'm happy, and that's what my job is.
Well, Peter, looks like we're going to have you back on a lot in the next, the rest of the summer. You got more assays coming out in the next, 10 days, 2 weeks, let's call it.
Yeah.
So we'll have you back on for that. And then drilling continues, the copper work continues. So you and I are going to be doing a lot of work together this summer.
Well, we'll have to get little drinks with umbrellas in them or something like that when it's all said and done, George.
When this all said and done and we can cross borders and there won't be any problems, then yeah, you got that for sure, Peter. But congratulations on behalf of everybody on what's happened with Fabled Silver Gold. This is incredibly exciting. And I love the fact that you took the time out, you put the slides together. We talked about this and said, yeah, let's really show the shareholders visually what's going on here. And I think this has been, we've done a lot of great interviews, but this to me has been the best one so far. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And while I have you there, George, I hope you don't mind. I'd really like to give a big shout out to the team in Mexico, because we've been going flat out since December of 2020, and the guys haven't taken a break, and they work 7 days a week.
Wow.
The shift's going 24 hours a day. And they're excited, they're just pumped now. Like this is just like putting them on NOS, like Van Diesel and NOS, like these guys are.
You're a Triple X fan, huh?
Oh yeah, sure.
Little NOS, little Fast and Furious. The Fast 5 took place. I think Fast 5 was the one that took place in Mexico. So this may be Fabled 5. That may be the new tagline we use for it.
Yeah, but anyways, I'd like to kudos out to the team, because they're working flat out and they're doing an excellent job, and I can't say enough. We have a top-notch team.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. Yeah, and that's great of you to make sure to give them acknowledgement, because there's groups of people on the ground who have to get it. It looks great in a presentation, it looks great on a Zoom, but there are people who are getting their hands dirty, getting their faces dirty, and working through some tough conditions at the end. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do this. So thanks for acknowledging him, Peter.
Yeah, you're welcome.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform, to Peter Hawley, President and CEO of the great team at Fabled Silver Gold, trades on the venture on the stock symbol FCO, and for our friends, the S, under FBSGF. Your part now is due diligence. You've heard or hopefully been watching what Peter had to say. For those new to the story, 2 ways to do your due diligence. First, get over to the Fabled Silver Gold profile on Agoracom. You can search by name, stock symbol, get to the profile, because we know there's a lot here. We give you a good 10,000 foot overview, so you have a good first understanding of what the company is doing. And then you can see it right above Peter there. Head over to the company's website, fabledsilvergoldcorp.com, to do your deep dive due diligence. Hopefully you discovered your next great small cap resources company. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us. See you in a couple of weeks.
Bye, George.
Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.